Welcome to TheFlickcast, the podcast about movies, TV, pop culture, and pretty much anything else. I am Chris Ulrich, and joining me, of course, Joe Dilworth, my esteemed colleague, co-host, and best pal. How are you, Joe?
Who you calling esteemed?
Esteemed pile of friend. How's that?
Who's scruffy looking?
Who's scruffy looking? You're a scruffy looking nerf herder if I ever saw one.
I am. See, before, post, or pre, or whatever, before and during the show, Star Wars references galore.
In the before times. Yes, because we're nerds, so we have to make Star Wars references.
Yes, in the
let's
before
talk about let's talk about the Enterprise D, so everyone thinks we know Star Trek too. The Enterprise D is not my favorite ship, but it's okay.
No, it's not mine. I do like the Enterprise E. It's kind of sleek looking, but
it was.
The original Enterprise.
Which one did Riker crash?
D. That
was
D. It was the.
That was the D. Yeah, that's right.
The D.
You know what I love about Star Trek? There's the one with Khan with Kirk. He's like, my God, what have I done?
Yes.
After he blows up the Enterprise, and everybody's like, what you do? What you always do?
That was
turn death and a fighting chance. That was Khan, right?
That was a search for Spock.
That was a search for Spock, and he blew up the Enterprise. Are you sure?
Yeah. Yep.
Shoot, you're right.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a nerd. I don't know anything about Star Trek. Damn it. Forget it. We're going to start the show over again.
Yeah,
I'm an amateur.
We got to. We'll edit that.
Are you sure that was Star Trek 3?
Yes.
Oh, you're right because they come to find the Genesis device and they blow up the Enterprise. And Reverend Jim is down on the planet dressed like a Klingon, and he says, "Get out of there!" And then the Enterprise blows up. That's
and
right.
I have had enough of you.
That's right. Then they have to go to the Klingon ship, and then they have to go rescue Spock in the fourth episode and find whales.
They took Spock with them at the end of the third one because they
have to rescue him and then go find whales. I'm sorry,
but in the fourth one, yes, they did have to go find. There be whales here, sir.
That's right. He said. This is the kind of scintillating conversation you can expect from this podcast. So I should mention that we have a Patreon at patreon.com/TheFlickcast. If you feel like supporting the show, that would be awesome. And you'll get more of this kind of thing, including all the Star Trek shit we were just talking about before we started recording this.
That's right.
Also, there's some stuff at the end. But let's not belabor the point too much. Let's get right into the action, shall we?
We shall.
What's the meat and the substance of this episode, Joe? What are we going to talk about?
The meat and the substance of this episode.
Yes. Uh-oh.
I don't know.
He's drawn a blank, folks.
I
consult your notes.
Movies? No. This time
movies,
much
TV,
like
pop culture.
I want to talk to you about this idea you have for what should be in the show. We think it's a really great idea. We just have a few notes before we make a decision. So that gives you a hint as what we're going to talk about this time. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of the movie industry. Well, maybe not the nuts and bolts, but a little bit about how what's the phrase? The soup is made? Is that what it's called? I don't know.
Make the sausage?
Yes.
You got to squeeze some donuts to make lemons? Wait, no, I forget. You're going to see how the sausage is made. So yeah, we've been talking about this for a while, and now we thought it'd be interesting to sort of peel back the curtain, if you will, and give you an idea of how the filmmaking process works. So the first thing that comes up is like someone, people think, oh, you just have to have an idea or whatever. But a lot of times, especially these days, movies and television shows are based on existing what's called IP or intellectual property, which is like books or comics or whatever. So, and apparently during this strange time that we're dealing with right now, they're buying a lot of books.
They seem to be, yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is someone says, hey, I'm going to option this book, which means they're going to give somebody money, like the author of the book or the publisher, and say, here's some money. I'd like to try to get this made into a movie. And that person is usually a producer. They call them a producer.
Yes.
Right? So then the producer takes the book that they own the option to, or they have the option to, and then they take it around town, which is a metaphor for Los Angeles usually, and they go around town shopping it around to studios or whatever to try to get it set up. How am I doing so far?
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
After taking a lot of meetings. Now, this also presupposes that this producer probably has a track record or has produced stuff, as they say, or knows somebody, because getting these meetings is not easy a lot of times. And you can take, a long time getting something set up somewhere. Or maybe you're one of the lucky ones and you have an existing deal somewhere. Like, I'm a producer who's made a bunch of movies, so I have an agreement with Paramount or with 20th Century Fox or whoever to bring them whatever I find.
Right, right.
And they'll maybe at least give me the courtesy of listening, or before they say, fuck off, we're not going to make that.
That's the other thing that seems to be happening a lot today, especially on the TV side, though, where there's a lot of people that are signing development deals. It seems a lot lately. But
it used to be if you were a stand-up comic, you can get a development deal, right? You do like a couple of HBO shows or whatever, and you get a deal for a sitcom. But they don't really do that as much now, although sometimes it still happens. But it's harder. Here's the thing about movies and TV, folks. Even with Netflix and whatever, and all the other places to have content, it's still expensive to make things. And it's still a crapshoot because you never know what's going to be successful, really. I mean, you have some idea, but you don't really know for sure. I mean, you could have, an amazing book like, Chronicles of Narnia or something. People love this book, right? And they're like, oh my God, a Chronicles of Narnia book. I love that. And I love to see a movie of that. And then the movie comes out and it does okay. Because people are like,
Yeah.
It turns out okay. But things are, or what's that movie? Oh boy, I'm going to draw a blank now. The one that had Oprah in it and about I just was talking about it.
Oh, A Wrinkle in Time.
Thank you. Yeah. A beloved children's book, right?
Yes.
Hugely popular book. Comes out, doesn't do that much business. And it wasn't because the movie was terrible necessarily. It's just that, you never know. Everyone, like Joe has always said, people don't go out there to make the worst movie, or they don't go out there to make a bad thing. It's just sometimes you never know. So it's risky is what I'm saying. It's very, very risky. And so studios are usually the only ones who can afford to take the risk because they make 100 movies a year, probably not anymore, but they make 25 movies a year now. And 24 or 23 of them will not do that well. But at least they have a couple that will be hugely successful. And that basically that keeps the lights on for everything else, right?
Right. Yes.
So development,
yes,
which is what we're talking about. The beginning process is called development. So we're developing our project. And then what?
Well, then once you go into development, there's always this weird stage that I've wondered about because I'm pretty sure, because with my limited experience, that it's a bullshit made up thing, meaning we're waiting on money or we're trying to really push on this studio to make our project. And that's pre-production, because pre-production to me is like, that's the same thing as development, right? I mean, I guess once you hit development and they're like, yep, we want to do this, let's go into production. It seems like you go into production. You don't go into pre-production.
Well, traditionally, development is when you're trying to get the money together, right? You're trying to get you have your material, your IP or whatever, your book. I have my novel that, I optioned, and I love this book, and I think it would make an amazing movie because it's topical and it's got some good things. And I also happen to know, I'm really good friends with the hairdresser of the best friend of Meryl Streep. So that's helpful.
Well,
so Meryl's going to read the book and tell me, whatever. I also need a writer. So I found a writer to adapt the book. So he or she or whatever are adapting the book into a screenplay. So now I have a script and I'm like, oh, great. This script is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how amazing it is. This is going to sell. So now I have Meryl Streep in theory because she's expressed interest. And now I have this killer script. So now I go back to the studio and say, I've got this package. Now I got to find a director. So I find a director. Let's say, Brett Leonard is available because we just talked about him earlier.
Sure.
So I got Brett Leonard attached to the script. And Brett Leonard and Meryl Streep are going to make a movie together. So now I've got this really great package. So now I'm still technically in development. Once I get the green light, then I'm in pre-production.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm in pre-production now, and now I'm like, oh shit, now I need to actually figure out how to shoot this fucker. So basically, how am I going to make this movie? I've got this killer script that's way super expensive. I don't have the money to make it, so now we're going to start making cuts to the script to fit the budget. They've only given us $10 million, but I really needed 50, which is terrible because studios never are going to give you just $10 million. They spend that much money on lunch. So I've got $100 million to make this killer movie with Meryl Streep, my killer sci-fi epic, Virtuosity 2.
Yes.
Based on the novel Push by Sapphire. So it's, I don't know. It's basically, so it's like, okay, now.
Well, you have to cast. You have to cast the rest of that,
Well, you've got Meryl Streep, so that's good. But you only have her for 2 weeks because she's really busy. So now you have to schedule around Meryl Streep. Anyway, so now all that happens in pre-production. So I make sure I have all the deals together. I guess that's
true. All right. So yes, okay.
So I got to get all my cast together. I got to get my directors. Got to get his director of photography. I got to get this guy. I got to get the sound guy. I got to get the gaffer. And I get the grips. And I got to get the the locations and all that shit. I got to get the trucks that are going to haul my shit around. I got to get my cameras. I got to get my my Winnebago's.
Okay,
I got to get blazed in my Winnie.
Got to release the studios. Got to
right. I got to have sound stages. Am I going to build sets, or am I going to do this virtually? I mean, again, if this is a Brett Leonard production, it's going to be a lot of virtual sets. I mean, I love Brett Leonard, so that's why I keep talking about him. But
yes,
Lawnmower Man is a killer movie. Let's be honest.
Yes, it is.
With the young Jeff Fahey.
A movie ahead of its time.
So. Definitely, and Virtuosity too, another movie ahead of its time. So this is definitely a Brett Leonard Stan podcast today. I don't know why I keep saying that Stan. I guess people still say that. I don't know. Now that I've adapted it, it's not gonna adapted it. I should say. No one's gonna do it. It's dead now. Officially,
it's gone. You killed it. Way to go.
I killed it. Yeah, that's all right. I always kill what I love. So. So I'm in pre-production now, and I'm getting all my elements together, which is what that's called. And looking for my locations, looking for my sound stages. I'm going to build my sets on the James Bond stage in England, because that's the biggest stage in the world that we need, because we're going to have huge sets, huge practical sets.
How much are you getting for this movie?
I got $100 million, Joe.
Okay.
But I need 150, so I got to start cutting pages. So this whole sequence that takes place in the asteroid belt, this whole battle sequence, has got to go. I'm sorry, that's an expensive sequence. That's got to go.
But that's so I cut that down. Whole key to the plot.
It's not that important. It can go. Okay. So, I mean, the important is we're going to keep Meryl's stuff. And since since the studio's getting like 50% of the budget from China, I need to make sure there are no ghosts in the movie and no other things that will offend China. So I have to cast someone from China, like a big Chinese actor, to be in the movie, which is fine.
It's called The Secrets of the Ghost Asteroids. How can you...
I know. Well, we're going to have to change that. That title's got to go.
You completely gutted the entire movie now.
Well, we don't have the asteroids and we don't have the ghosts, so now what are we going to have? So.
The secret of the space.
It's the secret of space, yes. It's space is black. It's dark and full of terrors, and like the night. And like big. I don't mean to disturb you, but Starfleet operates in space. I'm sorry, that's a total non sequitur. Anyway, so now I'm in pre-production and getting my shit together to make my movie. And then the studio is starting to dole out their money based on their schedules. Like, well, we'll give you, it's called a drawdown. They're going to give you the cash in a certain time frame. So here's some money, here's some more money, here's some more money. We're not going to give it all to you because we're not stupid.
Well, no.
We're going to give you a little. Plus, we don't have $100 million in the bank. Let's be honest. We don't have that kind of cash. We've got a little bit of cash we can keep doling out to you. So we're going to do that while we're going on based on your projections of what you're going to need, etc. So now we're still in pre-production. The casting is going great. We got all of our people together. We got our start date when we're going to start filming. And then COVID hits. And we're all fucked.
Yeah.
And then everything gets pushed.
The end.
The end, yeah. Then everything gets pushed for 6 months.
Yes.
And now it's a whole new cast. It's a whole new everything. Because that happens, unfortunately. And you know who gets screwed over the most in that situation is the crew. Because the crew does not have a deal that says, well, I get paid either way. Because a lot of actors, I don't know if you realize this, have what's called pay or play deals. Like Meryl Streep. If I say Meryl Streep's going to be in my movie, Meryl Streep's going to be getting paid no matter what, even if she doesn't show up and do anything. If the movie gets canceled, Meryl gets her $20 million or whatever she gets now.
Yep.
But people like that they get paid no matter what. The director usually gets paid no matter what. The producers sometimes get paid no matter what.
Right.
But they've also probably put out money to get this thing going in the first place. So they're kind of, it's a tough job. Being a producer is not as easy as people think. It's not as glamorous as people think. I mean, yeah, it is. But it's also really a struggle too, because you're the one trying to bring everything together, bring all the elements together. And for every one movie you make that's successful, you try to make 10 other ones that have never seen the light of day. You've sat in development hell. It's a real thing where it's never going to happen. Your shit's never going to get off the ground. No one wants to make your stupid musical about, paper boys in the 30s. No one cares about that, except they did make that. It was called Newsies, but whatever.
Right.
So I'm just saying, I was never at that level, though. I know about it because I sort of like danced around that level a little bit in the studio system, but I was more indie. So it was more like, how are we going to do this? We have no money. Let's make this movie for $100 and make it look like $1,000. That was the key. So
this warehouse could be the International Space Station, right? That'll be fun.
It could be. It's like, let's get a barn and have a show. That's basically, the Mickey Rooney way of doing anything. So I would just say, there's lots of standing sets. There's a place in Sun Valley. It's like a standing spaceship set. We'll just keep using that. You've probably seen it in a lot of low budget sci-fi movies and a lot of porn. Let's be honest. So it shows up a lot in those kind of things. But you'll see it.
So
you'll see the
heard.
Same. Well, I don't know if it's been in porn. I assume because it's the Valley, so pretty much anything's in porn.
Right.
I don't know if people know this who are listening, but the San Fernando Valley is the home of porn.
Oh, basically. I see. That's where it lives.
Oh yeah. That's where it lives. That's where porn lives, yes. And that's where they make most of the porn films, so I've heard.
So you've been told.
Well,
Okay.
I used to live in the Valley. I used to live in Studio City, California. Beautiful, beautiful Studio City, which is right near a place called CBS Radford, where they film a lot of like sitcoms and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. But I don't live in LA anymore, and I kind of don't miss it, especially now. I've heard it's been super hot, and there's been horrible things going on there. So I kind of
there
miss it
has
that much.
actually, yes.
So
all right.
anyway,
So
does that make sense?
Yeah. So now we're rolling into production, right? We got everything lined up. We're ready to go. It's day one.
Right. You have your shoot date, your commencement of principal photography, and then you start shooting. And then, the studio, if they're cool and they like you and, they only give you some notes. They've already given you a bunch of notes about the script. And then as you're shooting, they're watching the dailies, just like the dailies. I'm sorry, I keep saying that word. The dailies are the footage that you get back from the day that you shot.
Yeah.
So when it used to be a film, it took a day or so to get daily. So you'd watch yesterday's footage from, or the footage from yesterday, you watch that today. Now with, everything shot on HD mostly, or on video. So you're basically seeing everything the day.
I was a dailies projectionist.
Well, see, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, but some people still shoot on film. Nolan and Tarantino for sure still love film, and I still like film too. But I don't, no one's also shooting video at the same time, I'm sure, and so he's seeing everything.
Yeah.
So you basically are watching the footage, and the studio's watching the footage, unless you're a big time director, and they don't, they're not going to give as many notes. But if you're not a big time director, or if you're doing a franchise thing, like we're making a Marvel movie, you betcha they got notes.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
But a lot of that stuff has already been handled in pre-production or in development, and sometimes people don't even survive development. Like directors get fired, or they leave the project for the most important reason: creative differences.
Absolutely,
which could mean anything.
That's the number one reason. Yep.
It doesn't always mean anything. It usually means that they were trying to tell you how to make the movie, and you didn't want to make the movie that they wanted to make, so you tried to get your vision across, and they didn't care, and then you said, "Fuck it, I'm leaving." So
right, that's shorthand for that. Yeah.
That's shorthand. So, all right. So you're in pre-production, and now you're in production. So you're making your movie. Things are going great. You're making your days. You're shooting the pages you need to shoot for the day. Everything's clicking. It's going great.
Wow, that's a really awesome director.
Yeah, he did a great job. He's making the day. He's making the day, man. So what I mean by that is, like, on the schedule, you're basically trying to shoot a certain number of script pages a day. On a big feature, you're trying to do like a quarter or half page a day sometimes, and also it depends on how many takes you're going to do, which means how many times you're going to make the actors do the same thing over and over and over and over again. Okay, walk across the room and put your glass down with your left hand and deliver your line when you hit your mark. Blah, 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 blah. How good are you at that? Not that great. Okay, so we have to do this like 40 times. And if you're Kubrick or somebody, you got to do it 100 times. Because I'm not buying you as the guy with the glass. I just don't see it. It's not happening for me.
Yes.
So, and that could take all day, Or the other thing that takes time, as you know, of course, is lighting and putting the sets together, and you got to do all this other stuff. So there's a whole thing that goes into it, and usually that's why things look pretty good, because they take time and they do a really good job.
Yes.
And you're dealing with people, at the studio level in particular, who are at the top of their game, of their professional game. They, if you've got a $100 million budget, you can pretty much hire whoever you want, and they're all going to be excellent at their jobs, Academy Award winners, blah, 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 professionals who want to do a good job and love their jobs, because let's face it, you're making a movie and that's kind of fun. It's not like you're working at a bank or something. So, although no offense to bankers, right?
Wow, you're going to disparage banks. Way to go.
No. I mean, you're not working in an office. It's not like a 9 to 5 kind of gig. It's like, it's a 6 a.m. to 12 midnight kind of deal, kind of thing, and you get up and do it again, but you love it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Or, or it's terrible if there's like personality conflicts or whatever.
Okay.
But it pays okay when you work. I mean, right now, no one's really working, or if they are, they're, it's very, very dangerous. So anyway, so you're making your movie. Things are going great. You're making your day. The actors are delivering the performances you want. You're getting the editors working as you go, assembling your cut basically, so they can take a look at it, or so you can take a look at it and go, oh, the movie's coming together. Or also, the nice thing about that is the editor's saying, hey, you could probably use a couple of close-ups in this scene, or maybe it would flow better if you had this. And you're like, oh yeah, good idea. So let's get that. So we'll get that while we're still going. So it all comes together, and the composer's looking at the scenes. He's going, oh, I'm getting some ideas for music, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that go into it. And eventually, if everything goes well, you get 50, 60 days to do this. And then you're done. You wrap. It's called wrap. It's a very cool idea. WRAP, wrap.
Yes.
And you're done.
Yes. And then you have a party.
Then you have a party, a wrap party, exactly. And then you get more notes, and then you do pickups, or you go back and reshoot stuff, or you shoot another 3 months because this looked like shit. Or people go, I don't believe the third act. I don't understand how the movie ends. So let's go back and reshoot the whole ending. There's too many explosions, or not enough explosions, or the explosions are in the wrong place. So you got to fix that shit. So let's go back and shoot another month or two and fix all that stuff. Or you're still in post-production.
Or we decided we're going to give you the asteroid scene back because our backers really want, or say it's lacking a visual set piece, so we're going to give you that back, so go shoot it.
Yeah, or they say, why the hell did you cut the asteroid scene?
Right, what the hell's wrong with you? That was a bad idea. What the hell's wrong with you?
We told you to shoot that. But no one said that. No one said you had to cut that. But you said we couldn't afford that. I never said that.
Yeah, no, that never happens. Well,
that never happens.
Well, they could
also
your
be, own ass.
They could also be telling the truth because in the time that you've shot the movie, the studio heads have turned over, and someone brand new is the president, and he's like, "Hey, I never told you to remove that. We want that back."
That's true. There could be a whole new a guy in charge, or girl in charge, or whatever in charge of whatever person in charge of saying what they call that physical production. So it's like they're the person that sort of oversees that kind of aspect. Oh, I never told you. Or the development executives are like, yeah, we never said that. I'm like, oh, because you weren't here 6 months ago when we started this thing.
Right, exactly.
Surprise. Yeah. Like, yeah, you should put that in there. You know what this movie needs is an underground city sequence. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, that's always use that.
That is an old joke from Saturday Night Live. Nice. Did you ever watch that? They're joking about Apocalypse Now, and he's like, man, look.
Yes.
It's like, he said, you were in that. He's like, yeah, look for this face in the underground city sequence. And like, oh man, I heard they cut that. It's like, what? Oh shit. Anyway, sorry, I'm digging deep for that one, but I love Saturday Night Live back in the day. It was very cutting edge. I don't know if it's any good now, but anyway, so you do all that stuff, and then you go back and do your reshoots or your pickups. Those are two different things. Pickups are things you didn't get because you're like, oh, I really need this or this or this. Reshoots are when you go back and reshoot parts of the movie to, clarify things, or build up the third act, or build up the conflict, or build up the comedy, or build up this. Or your actor decides, you know what, I really should have done this entire movie? I should have done an accent. So now I'm going to go back and redo the movie as a donkey with a Scottish accent because that's what it would be better for this.
Right. And everyone's like, yeah, that would totally work. Let's do it.
Dude, you're a genius, man. Yes. Although in his defense, Mike Myers' defense, they didn't have to reshoot the movie because it was animated. So he had to go back and redo all the dialogue.
That's true.
But it's that kind of shit that happens too.
Yeah.
And yes, is that indulgent? Absolutely. Is that ridiculous? Yeah, sure. But does it make the movie better? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes while you're going along, you're like, oh shit, I should have done this differently. Inspiration will strike, and there's no way to know when it's going to strike sometimes.
Absolutely.
Until you see stuff coming together, and then you know, or you don't know.
Right.
And sometimes it's a piece of shit, so who knows?
Or you reshoot because you've had an actor that quit and is now saying bad things about you on Twitter, any kind of thing. So.
Wait, you're not talking about any particular, are you?
No, but I'm just giving scenarios. I mean,
dude, I feel like I've been rambling a lot in this episode. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. No worries. No.
We both have our experience in show business. This is kind of my area, I guess, more maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Having been down this road so many times that, unfortunately, I've been in a situation more often than not where you're in pre-production almost, and then the money dries up or falls apart, or the financing collapses or whatever.
Well,
and like, sorry, fuck you. Goodbye.
And that's the thing about this that I think is amazing, and maybe many people don't realize is every step that we're describing, and all the ones that we're about to, all the way to the end, at any point along any of those steps, even multiple parts of those steps, this whole thing can fall apart and your movie's done. Even when it's finished, there are things that can happen, and it's like, it's not going to ever get released.
Look at like the X-Men movie that they're trying to come out with the kids, New Mutants, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean that was sitting on the shelf for 2 years or something like that.
Yeah,
you have a movie that's quote unquote done, and you're like, nah, we're not going to release that. It's a piece of shit, or whatever. Or it's politics, or who knows. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You could do everything right.
So people are like, whatever happened to such and such movie? Or how come I thought they finished that? It's like, there's many, many reasons why a movie, even a TV show, can fall apart at any stage and never see. So, that's kind of the thing. Even, when you hear people say, oh yeah, I have my book's been optioned or it's in development, and people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to see your movie," and they're secretly thinking, "Yeah, I can't wait either, and I hope it happens."
Someday I got my option money, and it's an option for 2 years for all rights. Whoa, I'll never see that money again.
Well,
the funny thing about those kind of deals, though, is you get a little bit of money up front unless you're a big time author. But what you really get is the money when things actually go into production. There's milestones in your contract where you get paid as things accelerate into production. So if it never goes into production, you just get like your $5 and you're like, sorry.
Yep.
I mean, it's more than $5 usually, but you don't get the real money until shit goes into production. And then, if you're a famous, successful author, you really make your money on the back end. When your movie is successful, that's where you're going to rake in the money, if it's successful.
Yeah.
So in the back end is when you sold the movie and it's come out in the theaters and in video and on whatever. Yeah. That's considered the back end later.
So. Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, too. Studios will have, not to say that they're all not scrupulous, but they have ways of, creative bookkeeping where...
Creative accounting, definitely.
Creative accounting. Even the most successful movies ever on paper look like they were, monetary failures. And that's why we can't pay you the residuals on this movie that's made over $1 billion. So
yes, here's a term that no one ever wants to hear, but it's called cross collateralization.
Yes,
no one wants to hear that. So all, like I said before, all the failures have to make up for the successes, or I'm sorry, all the successes have to make up for the failures.
Yes.
So if movie A and B make money, movie C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K all fail, then the two movies that made money have to pay for all the other movies and also all the other movies that are in development right now. So we're taking all this money and we're going to stick it over here and stick it over here and stick it over here and stick it over here. And based on the accounting, it's like, yeah, your movie's not making anything. I'm sorry, dude. It was we had really high hopes, but not everybody's like that. But it does happen. There's whole books written about it.
Oh yeah.
People get screwed over, unfortunately, and people sue for profits they're owed. I mean, it happens. Yeah. It's a business where, it already gets kind of a bad rap, especially lately, about all the bad people in it. But there are some bad people who try to cheat you, and it's not cool. But I think that's the way it is in most large businesses. There just seems to be more publicity surrounding Hollywood because it's Hollywood, and so I think you'd find the same number of asshole backstabbers at in corporate America.
Oh yeah,
or in tech or in whatever. So it's not just Hollywood. It's everywhere. Once there's a lot of money involved, Once there's a lot of money involved, and all bets are off sometimes. I mean, they're not all bad people. They're mostly good. It's just some people are bad. So. Yes. Or like we were also talking about post-production.
Yes, we're into post-production now.
Yeah, you're watching your movie and you realize, oh shit, now the news comes out, oh man, my lead actor's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So now I have to go back and digitally replace him with a new actor, which happened. Yeah, we were just talking about we did a big deep dive into the films of Ridley Scott recently, and we're going to release that out for our patrons and then everybody else. But we were talking about Until the End of the World, which is the movie I'm thinking of with where Kevin Spacey got replaced by Christopher Plummer because it came out that Kevin Spacey was unfortunately a piece of shit. So
yeah, it turns out,
and that's too bad because I was a fan, but I cannot,
not anymore. Nope,
not anymore. Yeah, you can't, and it's unfortunate when you find out. It was a surprise because he always seemed, like a good guy, and then he's not, and it's unfortunate. But, it happens, and so you have to move on. So, as Ridley Scott said, we got to move on, So, now we have to go back and put Christopher Plummer in the movie. And he's a great actor, so, I'm sure it worked out. It's weird, but it happens. So, that's basically post-production, and then you basically get the movie together, and you do your music and your sound mix, which is important that everybody forgets post-production because you got to have sound. There's a lot of things that go into sound, but that's like a whole separate episode where we just talk about sound post-production because there's a lot of things that go into sound.
Yes, there is.
And you get that all together, and then you have your cast and crew screening, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's excited. They go to the screening and they watch the movie. They go, wow, I remember that scene. I remember we filmed that. It was raining that night. It was so fun.
They're like, I'm so awesome in that scene.
I am awesome in that scene. Yeah, that scene is so much better than I thought it was going to be because I was like, I felt like shit that day. But it turned out the editing is amazing. And then you watch the movie and the director gets that compliment that they always want to get where people say, oh, you know what, man, the music was great. Or it sounded really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the cinematography is awesome.
The cinematography was beautiful, yeah.
Yes.
That's what you get. That's the compliment you get when they don't have anything nice to say. It's like, oh, yeah, the cinematography was good. I mean, the cinematography might have been beautiful. It's just that your movie is crap except for the cinematography.
Right.
That's the translation usually. Yes. So then the studio, of course, watches the movie and they say, "Oh, that's pretty good. We're going to release that on in the summer. We're going to release that in Christmas time, or we're going to release it in January, which is the dead ground for movies, or it used to be."
Yes.
This is coming out January 31st.
That's right,
man.
We'll release this for Groundhog Day. How about that?
Nothing but confidence in your film, sir or ma'am. We're going to release this in January. Well, again, used to be the death slot. Like Friday night used to be the death slot for TV shows when it mattered what the networks did.
Right.
When you didn't have 400 other channels or whatever. So January was usually the dumping ground for movies. Now with movies coming out all the time, it doesn't matter. Or with Netflix or whatever releasing shit whenever.
Yes.
It kind of doesn't matter as much, and it kind of works the same way for places like Netflix or Apple TV Plus or Amazon or whatever. Development is still kind of development, and production is still production, and post production is still post production. You got to have all those things happen. It's just that the deals are different, the structures are different because you're streaming, and also Netflix can make 100 things, and most of them are crap, but they don't care.
Right. Exactly.
Because they got so much money, they just don't care.
Right, exactly. So. Well, and also you have to remember when you're in post-production, sometimes they'll wait till after post-production and everything is finished. But sometimes in post-production, you're doing all the PR stuff and interviews and previews and all that kind of stuff.
You can't forget about all that stuff. Yeah, publicity is important.
Yes, because they're also trying to get a cut of the trailer because PR, that's the place where you can say, well, yes, the movie did make $1 billion, but we spent, almost $500 million on promoting this thing. So we're already almost at a loss when you include how much we gave you to make the movie, how much it cost for, ancillaries for the stars and all this kind of stuff. So yes, you can't forget about the PR because that's where they get you.
Yeah. Advertising, you got to promote the movie. I mean, otherwise people aren't going to go see it because they have so many other choices. So maybe you spend $100 million. Let's say you spend $100 million to make your movie all in.
Yeah,
you delivered your product for $100 million. They're going to spend $200 million to sell it.
Yep,
at least.
So movie's got to do a lot before.
Now it's got to make $300 million to make its money back. So they got to promote the shit out of it. Television ads cost money. Newspaper ads cost money. Newspapers, things that people used to read, they're made out of paper. The internet costs money. Buying critics cost money. Wait, no, they don't do that. But,
Well, they kind of do. I mean, press junkets.
Shit like that. Well,
really nice places.
You're supposed to be unbiased, Joe. You're not supposed to be influenced by the press junkets. Come on.
Right. I'm not.
No one's influenced by that and the free food and the booze.
And the free gifts and...
No one's influenced by
open bar and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's paid promotion.
Why don't you come out to the wrap party? Why don't you? We'd like you there. You could,
come out for a set visit.
Yeah, come out for the set visit. We'll let you hang out with Meryl for the day, and she'll tell you all about this movie. It'll be great.
Good old Meryl. She'll do some accents for you. She's good at that stuff.
Yeah, she's great. Ask her to do something. She loves it when people ask her that. It's great.
I think her favorite accent is Polish. Right? I don't know.
Yes.
Anyway, so no, I don't think you get to meet Meryl if you go to the set visit. No. You probably get to meet, third tier or whatever. But anyway, she seems like someone who doesn't really have to do publicity either, but does.
No.
But yeah, she's more like, I've got Meryl Streep in my movie because, she's the best and I want the best.
Yes, and you have to be a very successful, well-known publication or news outlet in order to get to even talk to her on the,
Well, yeah, like Vanity Fair or somebody, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's publicity, and all the actors have to do all their junkets. They got to go all over the world promoting. They got to go to China. They got to go to Italy. They got to go to France. They got to get asked the same questions in 100 languages by 100,000 different people.
Yes.
So what interests you in the role in the first place? Did you do anything special to prepare for this role? Yeah. Oh God, yeah, I learned Taekwondo, and then I had to get like a series of colonics. It was horrible and amazing at the same time. I thought I saw God the entire time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so did you have to audition for this movie? You just got this role, right? No,
I don't read for parts. People just offer me things. I don't read.
I know.
Reading's for losers.
That's right. That's for other actors. That's for
amateurs.
Yes.
No, it's funny. I mean, if you think about it, they do get asked these same fucking questions. And I feel bad because I used to ask the same kind of questions too. So, what was it about this role that, and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it was amazing. And, people who are good at this kind of thing, like I had a lot of people who are really good at it. A lot of actors like, yep, they'll answer the questions, they'll be engaging because they're actors, they're performing.
Right.
This is part of their job. They're there to perform, to promote their movie and themselves. But some are just like, fuck, I don't know, man. I need to fucking buy a house. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
the rent was due,
Yeah, I did ask some of the generic questions, but I mean, in the, I guess, studio and actors' defense, it's sort of incumbent on the quote unquote journalist to do their homework ahead of time, right? I mean, I know I've been around you when you've talked to people and you asked different things too, other than just the.
Well, I'm not talking about me. I'm just saying that if you get asked even different questions 100 times, if you're doing a junkets all over the world, you get tired. And sometimes you're like, yeah, I just did this movie because I needed money, dude.
Right.
And then you don't really say that. It's like, or you're like Michael Caine, did it pay? Yeah, I'm there.
My mom needed a house. Okay, so
yeah, mom needed a house. Grandma needs a house.
Yes.
I got rent to pay. I got to pay the bills.
That's right.
So some things you do for love and some things you do for money. And if you're lucky, those are the same thing. But they're not always the same thing.
Well, it is a business, and people forget that too. I know we've talked about that before, and I've ranted about that, but it is a job. It isn't like, well, they were sitting in Jamaica making a movie for 2.5 years. It's like, no, their part of it in Jamaica was like for 4 days, and that's it, right? And usually, I mean, big budget movies we're talking are the ones that get like 60 days and 70 days. Usually, if it's an independent movie, you have 2 weeks or 15 days to get your stuff done. So, it is a job. I mean,
if you're lucky, yeah.
That's what I always thought was weird, especially on interviewing some people about movies or TV shows. Even it's like you're asking them questions about something they did like 9 to 18 months ago, and they've done like 2 other movies since then, and they're just like, so it is kind of weird.
What movie am I talking about again? I forget. Yeah. What
Which one was
sometimes
this?
Sometimes you know the thing better than they do. A lot. Sometimes. I'm like, that was a great experience, an amazing experience.
Yes. It's words escape me trying to really nail down what was fantastic about it.
I can't really put it into words. Isn't that your job to talk? No, not really. No,
it isn't. I just look good. That's it.
I'm just pretty. No,
yes. So
for the longest time, I sort of had a chip on my shoulder about some actors because for whatever reason, I'd had some bad experiences with actors. And lately, or not lately, but just more recently, I guess, I've turned a corner on pretty much everybody. It's like, you know what? Everyone's trying to do their best.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to, get something out of it. And yeah, some people are just doing it for the money and not for the art or whatever that means, or for the love. But it is, I think people have this misconception, like you were just saying, they have this misconception that it's a party every day. It's not a fucking party, dude. You're working 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week sometimes. You don't have time to party. And yes, sure, some people do. Like the big actors sometimes will take advantage of that, and you hear about that kind of thing. Yeah. But most of the time, especially at the crew level, the below the line people, the people that actually do the work.
Yeah.
Not the producers, not the director, although they all work too. But I'm saying like the crew especially. They're there in the morning, first people there. They're the last people to leave, and they're working their asses off pretty much all day.
Yes.
Now, granted, they're having fun, and they're getting paid pretty well, but not.
But still,
it's not an astronomical sum. And yeah, you'll get one movie, maybe you'll get one nice project a year, and you work for 6 months or 7 months or 8 months, and that's it. And then for the rest of the time, you're like, I got to get another job,
right,
or whatever. And it's the life you choose or chose. But still, it's still nerve-wracking. Although that part never really bothered me, the freelancing part. It was just like you always just have to get another job. It's like I got to get another gig. Even though I'm in the middle of a show, I got to get another show. I got to have something to do.
Yeah.
And so it never bothered me. But then I also had fewer responsibilities when I was doing it too. So now it might be more nerve-wracking.
Might be a little different now, yeah. I mean, it's stressful. I mean, it is, like you said, they're the first ones there, last ones to leave. So that can be like 18-hour days. And their turnaround isn't any different. I mean, I guess there are union rules on that if you're in a union shop, but it's...
because people follow those rules all the time.
Yeah, because having worked on a few things as a day player and then sometimes as a regular crew person, it's like it's so weird because all you do when you're not doing that is sleeping if you can, and then you're back to it. And after, doing a season of a show out here in Portland plus movies for a while, it's weird when you have downtime because you don't know what to do, and people are like, "Oh, that was really terrible, that thing that happened the other day," and you're like, "What are you talking about? I have no." You're just it's weird. It's a weird life, but
yeah, you're basically in the trenches, or whatever they say. I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to diminish people who fight and go to war and all that stuff. No. I mean, it's just a metaphor, and it's like you're with all these people all the time, and you're basically all working for the same thing, and they're your only contact with humanity. Because, like you said, when you're done, when you wrap for the night, you go home and you go to sleep.
Yep.
Or you keep working for a while and then you pass out, and then 8 or 9 hours later, you wake up and do it again and again and again. And there are rules, and you're supposed to not do that, but they only really carry like monetary penalties for the most part. And so if you pay those, then people can come back. Force call them, you bring them back if you have to.
Yep.
But it's just, and that's why sometimes you hear, unfortunately, about people getting tired and driving and getting in accidents because they get super tired, and it's a tough job. But again, you're doing it not just for money, but you have to really like it.
Yes.
To do it. And you have to like it enough to put up with disappointment when things don't go your way or don't happen, or you're in the middle of something and it falls apart, or you don't work for 6 months, or you're getting ready to do something and a world pandemic comes.
Yes.
And because who expects that? Or a Spanish Inquisition either. And then you're not working for a long time. And, it's got to be nerve-wracking because that's your job. That's your livelihood. And so, now granted, like my union, the Directors Guild, has been sending me emails saying, if you need any money, we're willing to give loans. And I'm like, well, thank you. First of all, that's great. I mean, it's basically my money, so you're just giving it back to me. But secondly, it's like the interest rate's not even that good, and you got to pay it back in like 5 years. So I'm like, okay,
yes.
But they're trying, they're trying, and I'm sure they have similar programs for the unions or whatever. That's why I like unions, because they try to take care of their members if they can.
They do,
but but it's nerve-wracking and it's tough, and it's not all fun all the time. It's definitely work, and I just want people to know that it's definitely not all. It's not all fun. I keep saying that, but it's not. It's not. It's work. No, it's a real job. It's not a fake job. It's a real job. So.
And it's hard. It's hard work a lot of times too. I mean, I'm sure working. I think we kind of alluded to this, but working like on a Marvel movie or something like that, I'm sure they make sure everybody's fed. They make sure you get time away and all this kind of stuff. But if you're on something where all the money that they have is going into the things they're shooting. You may go hours without eating unintentionally. I mean, you may be shooting at night, in the rain, in like 40-degree weather, and we can't afford to have a tent for everybody or something like that. And so
there's only one tent. Everyone has to stand really close together.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
one easy up for the entire crew.
But it really, I mean, it is. Truly, I think a job, just having been in it, and the people I've talked to that have and are still in it, it's also something that, like you said, you really, really love. You can't conceive doing anything else, and making movies and making stories, making TV is what you live for, and at the level, whatever level you're at. I mean, if you're the guy that constructs the sets, you're proud to see your work on screen, right? So, I mean, pretty much anybody involved in a movie, anything you do on it is going to be there on the screen in some fashion, and that's kind of a high. That's kind of fun,
It is. Well, I mean, I like to think of it as like a calling almost.
Yeah.
You don't get into it for money necessarily. I mean, you do because you want to make a living, and you have to make a living, as everybody does. But you're going for something maybe a little bit loftier, maybe more of an ideal of art. I mean, it's art. You're trying to make art. Yes. And making art, sometimes you have to suffer. But I also know that there are people that don't think of it that way too. Like, the dolly grip is not watching the movie go, man, that was a good push, man. Look at that tracking shot. Man, I'm a fucking genius. I mean, maybe he is. maybe he's not. Probably not. But he's like on to like 12 movies since then. But, but nothing against dolly grips. I've known some really great ones. but it's just they're the guys who push the dolly. The dolly is the thing that is track, and I'm explaining to the audience, Joe.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
The camera sits on a dolly which has track under it usually, or what they call a dance floor, which is like a flat. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, it's a movable thing, a movable platform that gets pushed or pulled depending on what the move is by a guy called a dolly grip. It's a union job, and so he moves that around. And in the shots, a lot of times you'll see the camera going with, the actor or whatever, and a lot of times that's a dolly shot, or it's Steadicam, or it's a crane. A lot of people just stick a crane. Let's just stick a crane in there because you need a crane always.
There you
gotta have a crane. Gotta have a super techno crane for everything.
Yes.
You do because they're awesome, but the dolly grip is not necessarily in it for the art all the time, or the craft service person, or the caterers. Like the caterer's job is to provide food. They're not going, oh, I love, but maybe some of them are.
Yeah.
The more creative arts part of it is more of what I'm talking about. But everybody's trying. Everybody's a professional. Everyone's doing their best job, and like a lot of jobs. And it's just, it's fun. And I think I miss it sometimes, but I don't miss the hours and the suffering part. I miss the people. I miss the crew, the camaraderie, that kind of thing. Because that was on parallel. That was fun. And I'm still friends with a lot of people I work with. And you make these relationships, and you don't see people for years sometimes. And you still talk to them though. And you see, like, you go on to something else, and you go on another show, and there they are again. They're like, oh, you take up where you left off because these are your, you've been through it together.
Yeah.
Right.
It's pretty cool. I mean, yeah,
it is.
It's. I
don't know any other thing that has that necessarily.
No, and it's like you build this family, and then it ends, and you're have a mixture of sadness and being proud of what you've done, even though you haven't seen it yet, maybe. And then you pick it up and do it again, and it's like you meet this whole new group of people that you become close with, and like you said, there's always the joy of like, oh, who's the key grip on this? Oh yeah, I worked with him on, a couple of years back on this one thing. He's awesome. And you're like, hey man, how's it going? And it's like,
that guy had the best blow. Oh wait, no.
Yes.
Just kidding. That never happens.
No.
There are no drugs in Hollywood.
So it's
that's exactly right.
Really cool.
It's fun. It's fun to work with the same people, which is why it happens. I mean, if you're lucky enough to keep making films, like if you're a big director or whatever, you keep making the movies that you want to make, and you make them with the same people. Like Tarantino uses the same crew every time, or Nolan uses the same guys every time. Or what? I'm having a hard time. I mean, I can understand what they're going through. Like Supernatural, right? They've been on for what, 12 years?
15. This is their
15 years.
Yes,
holy shit!
15.
So
years.
15 seasons, and they've finished. I cannot imagine what the set was like on the last day.
Oh, it had to have been a mess.
15 years doing this kind of shit. I mean, it's just. There must have been bawling because these are your family members that you're like, oh my God, it's over. I can't imagine. I mean, I have some idea what it was like, but that must have been an amazing and sad and a wonderful experience for everybody. But it must have been tampered a little bit by the fact that everyone's masked and standing apart from each other. But
well, there's that. Yes,
you can't hug, no hug, distance hugs, and stuff. But it's just.
Elbow bumps.
Yeah, it does become, like you said, it becomes like a family, and it's a family you miss when they're not around. So I still miss people that I worked with 10, 15 years ago. I still talk to them on Facebook sometimes, or on whatever. Directors that are friends of mine now, and actors that are friends of mine now that I work with. It's just you don't see them. You only see them occasionally. And I saw them more when I lived in LA, obviously, but you don't see them as much now. But we talk occasionally, and I'm trying to get some of them on the show to be interviewed by us and stuff, but it's fun.
Well,
I mean, we could probably talk about this for a long, long time, which we already have. But I feel like this is a topic we should revisit, maybe in more detail in the various sort of areas.
Yeah, we should
kind of gloss over the whole process. This is more like an overview, but maybe get back into it deeper.
We'll start with do a show per just on development, show just on production.
Well, that'll be fucking boring, but yeah.
Well, development though, I think is. I don't know. To me, that's kind of interesting because it's so fucked up.
It is. Well, what I like about it, and also what I love about screenwriting, because I write screenplays. The thing I like about it the most is that at that point, anything is possible.
That's true.
The sky is the limit. You can write a script about asteroid blowing up or whatever we were just talking about. That is entirely, anything is possible because there's no budget, there's no constraints by anybody. It's like, it's your imagination. It's like writing a novel. It's like anything is possible right now. You can make up anything you want. The script can have anything in it you want. You can have any actor you want. You can have anything you want right now. And then reality will gradually chip away your dreams and crush you. But before that, you can have anything. And that's what I like about it. It's an optimistic, positive thing.
Yes.
Like we've been talking about so much, optimism and positivity. Anything is possible. Limitless possibilities. That's what I like about it.
Until the studio gives your notes. But here's the thing about that too. I mean, yes, there are, I have mixed feelings about when, quote unquote, the studio gets involved and pulls it apart. Because again, as we talked about, this is a business and the studio is paying, even if they're paying like $3 million for a movie, that's a lot of money, right? I mean, for you, I'd love to have $3 million right now just to throw around, right? So they're trying to turn what you've given them into something that they know, or at least think they know, will net them a larger return than what they're putting into it, right? Because I keep saying right, they're in this to make money. So
right.
So
right. They're going to make money. Yeah, it's a business. You're right.
So it gets ludicrous. Like J. Michael Straczynski told this story famously one time, the guy who created Babylon 5, that he was pitching a film version of Moby Dick. And in the pitch, his claim is, could be exaggeration, but he claims that, one of the studio people he's pitching to just stopped and he goes and looked at him and said, "Does it have to be a whale?" And he was right. And then, it went from there. And then it was like, they were like, we'll go with it, but it's got to have a happy ending kind of thing, So they're still looking at their bottom line and how they're going to make the studio that they work for money so that they can make more money so they can get bonuses and they can eventually run the studio, right? So they're
right. Yeah, they don't want to be the guy. They don't want to be the guy or the girl or the man or the woman. I don't want to say girl because maybe that's sexist. Who says, yes, this is a great idea, and then have it fail because then you're going to look stupid and your bonus is tied up into it and you're not going to get promoted or whatever because they have a job to do too. So they want to make sure they are maximizing this product for mass consumption, which is why you get a lot of superhero films right now, which is why you get a lot of pulp, poppy entertainment for mass consumption. You don't get, nuance or, subtlety or whatever. You get the biggest explosions and the biggest spectacle you can because that's easily digestible by everybody.
Exactly. Yes.
For the most part. So, and those are the people, those people get promoted because they said, I'm going to make, like Kevin Feige, super smart guy. He understands what people want to see.
Right.
And he also understands the needs of the companies paying for all this stuff. Yes. They got to make profits. They got shareholders that need money. They've got all this stuff to deal with. That's the thing about corporate control over film and TV production. Is that they've got ultimately got to be accountable to the shareholders. So their movies have to make money. So they have to appeal to the broadest possible audience. So that's why you have the things you have now. But in that room, the people are thinking about that. They have to be because
absolutely
they get it hammered to them every day by their bosses saying, you know what, you can't buy any more of these foreign, independent films or whatever. You got to give us some meat and potatoes kind of stuff so we can sell it, and that happens. And so you get most of the things that are, giant spectacles. And then occasionally you get, an amazing foreign film, or occasionally you get an amazing indie film. And those are hard to make and those are hard to come by, but you get them.
And sometimes. To defend the whale guy too, I kind of wonder, because I thought about that a long time, and I wonder if it didn't come from a place of ignorance, if he's the guy in the room that was calculating, well, we're going to give him, $2 million to make this movie, and it primarily features a whale, which we're going to have to do with CG. So that's our $2 million for the movie right there before we've even shot anything. So does it have to be a whale kind of thing, right? So
the whale's just a metaphor, right? It could be anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could not.
You don't think he's read Moby Dick? Come on.
I would like.
You're probably right.
Because it seems
I've heard that story before, and I feel like he was just sort of bullshitting.
I think he was exaggerating to make a point.
Yeah, I don't know that it happened exactly like that, but the point is valid because I mean, I've been in those meetings, unfortunately, where they've asked questions that are sort of ridiculous. But whale guy needs to protect his job.
Absolutely, because if he green lights X number, let's say arbitrarily 4 movies that all flop, and cost the studio millions and millions of dollars, he's probably not going to have his job anymore.
Yeah, he's out. He's out. Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, it doesn't work quite that way anymore, luckily. I mean, I guess luckily is not really the word, but it just can't work that way anymore because the costs are so much tighter now, which is why you've seen, you probably wouldn't even get a meeting about Moby Dick now. It's like, we're not making that. Yeah, no one's gonna watch Melville. Who's this guy? I mean, I don't. What's he done lately? So it's like,
are there vampires or zombies in it? No one's gonna care.
Yeah, I mean, superheroes. Is it based on existing IP?
Right.
Yes, it's a novel from when? Oh no one's gonna watch that. Let's make that a TV show instead.
Exactly.
So that's more of a Netflix movie. That's more of a Amazon Prime thing. That's more of a whatever. So that's an Apple TV special show, or that's that kind of shit. So feature films, which are things in the theaters.
Yeah.
There's going to be fewer of them, especially after this. There's going to be fewer things in the theaters in general, unfortunately. And you're going to see more and more stuff streaming, which means optimistically, maybe you'll get more variety and better things because the costs are lower and Netflix doesn't have to make as much money. They don't have to recoup their investment every time. So you're going to get more strange stuff like The Boys. You're going to get The Boys on Amazon where heads blow up and shit. And, you were not going to see that. No one's going to make a movie of The Boys, first of all.
No.
And second of all, it's just, you're not going to get that anywhere else because they can take more chances. It'd be more violent or be more controversial, whatever, for whatever reason, sensational or whatever. And that's great. And you're going to get more variety, and variety is good. It's not a bad thing. So let's not fear change. Let's embrace change, and just, it's inevitable anyway. So let's just enjoy it.
I agree. Yes.
I agree too. So quickly, wow, that was a lot. Probably too much. I want to just mention a show. Speaking of shows that are on TV, I was sort of late to this show, and then we can wrap it up.
Right.
But I highly recommend watching Ted Lasso if you have Apple TV Plus, because we're talking about optimism and happy things. It's a happy show. It's an optimistic show, and the philosophies that are in it are positive ones. And Jason Sudeikis is great in the show. Everybody actually is really, really good in the show and does a great job. It's well directed, well photographed. The music is interesting. It's got some cool needle drops. It's funny, but it's got a heart in the right place. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that. But it's a really good show. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. We don't really do picks much anymore here, but I'm picking that one. That's my pick. And I was kind of late to the show coming on, late to watching Ted Lasso, I mean.
Okay. And I may have to check it out.
Yeah.
I keep hearing about it.
I think you should watch it. I think it's great. I think you'd really like it. And the only thing that bothers me is I'm pissed because I already watched them all. So now I've got nothing to watch. Now I've I have to watch frickin' Enola Holmes again.
I mean, is this still going to get renewed or?
Oh yeah, it's got another season, but when the fuck are they going to film it? Right?
Well, yeah, you're right. Silly me, you're right, exactly.
What's funny is there's actually another show. Apple TV shows have been really good. Mythic Quest is another great show that was on Apple TV Plus. That's about a video game company. It's really excellent.
That show C is on there too, right?
What's that?
The show C with
C
Momoa.
is the only one I didn't like that much. I like Dickinson. I didn't like C very much. I like the Mankind, the space show. Awesome.
For All Mankind. I like For All Mankind and Dickinson.
Yeah.
I haven't watched C yet, but
C was okay. I like Jason Momoa, but the premise didn't work for me as much. It's sort of.
Well, it got renewed. I think all their stuff has been renewed pretty much.
Well, sure, because they have money.
Yeah.
Apple's got a ton of money. So fuck, let's make 3 seasons. But Ted Lasso is great. I definitely think you should watch it. Mythic Quest is great too if you haven't watched it. It's really good.
No, I haven't watched that yet. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's got what's the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Anyway, one of the guys from that. Not Charlie Day, the other guy, McInerney or whatever his name is. He's great in the show. They're all great. It's a great show too.
I've never watched
It's
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I wanted to mention Ted Lasso because people have been talking about it online and stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a chance. And I did, and I'm so happy that I did. There's a couple of scenes where I'm like, oh, this is super emotional, and I really dug it, and I think that you will like it too.
I will have to check it out. Okay.
Anyway, this is a really long episode, so maybe we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we probably should. So.
All right. Do you have anything you want to throw out there, or are we good?
No. I think we should do. The only thing I'll throw out there is I think we should do an episode of picks sometime soon. to kind of make up.
We
for
did that. We did that once before, right? We did that.
We did our
what we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
We should do a looking forward to part 2.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right, that sounds good. All right, so for Joe Dilworth, I'm Chris Ulrich. That was the Flickcast. Thanks for listening to this long episode. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.